Hey, what's up, guys? My name is David, and welcome to day 34 of my 90 days journey to create $5,000 in passive income. Well, today I have some bad news, or I should say, it's been a character building day. I did not close on my home, and it was all my fault. And I will get into it in a moment. The other thing I will share is what I learned from Ryan Holiday's book, Discipline is Destiny. Now let's dive in. My house closing was today, and this is something I had been anticipating for more than a week. Where did it go wrong? It was, it all came down to about 5 minutes of decision making. Yesterday, I received the final numbers from my closing attorney, and I decided to wire the money over a day in advance just in case. But what I didn't know was in my bank there were several options for transferring the money, and I assumed all of the options were wire transfer. And I selected the option that was a little cheaper and it would be transferred the next day. I figured that was fine since I'm doing it a day early. This morning I checked with the closing attorney to see if they received the fund. They said, yeah, we got it in the account and you're all set. I thought, great. But an hour later I got another email from her. They told me they were just notified that the transfer was ACH and it was rejected by their bank. Then they asked me if I could resend the wire transfer as a wire transfer. That's where the issue came in. I had already sent the money from my bank, and I don't have another $20,000 just lying around. I would need to wait for the current transfer to return back to my bank before I could send it again. And there was not a good chance that I would receive it by the end of the day. I called my bank to ask if there's anything they could do. I even suggested maybe they have some kind of program where they could loan me the money since it's already on the way back, and I would return it as soon as the original transfer goes back to my account. They said no, unfortunately there's nothing we can do, you just have to wait for the process. I was dumbfounded. I had spent all this effort to get the closing moved ahead, only for this thing to happen due to a really silly mistake. And what made me even more frustrated is when I initially checked with the closing attorney in the morning, they said we were good. And I put it at the back of my mind, okay, now I just need to go to closing. When she told me later that we didn't get the money from you, that's when all chaos break loose. So what is the lesson I learned from this? It's pretty simple. When you're handling large amounts of money, to double check, triple check, quadruple check your work. Actually, I have an even better idea the next time. Just get my wife to stand beside me when I'm making these transactions. I'm sure that one of us would spot the issue beforehand. And now as I'm filming this, I still don't have the money in the account, and at the earliest it's gonna be back on Monday. I have rescheduled the closing for Tuesday, and hopefully by then I will be able to get the money out as a cashier's check to go to the closing. The good news is that at least the money is on the way back. I got confirmation from my bank as well as from the attorney's office that the transaction is declined, and since it's an ACH transaction, it always goes back to the original account. And what would have been much worse is if I had sent the money to the wrong account and it's lost forever. And another lesson I learned is that in order to move quickly, you have to move slowly. And that's actually something I will talk about next from the book that I read. Today I picked up a book by Ryan Holiday called Discipline is Destiny, which you can check out in the link in the description. It's all about how to be successful, you need to have a basic set of principles, and the discipline being the centerpiece. It talked about examples of some of the most productive people in history, such as Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was one of the top generals during the World War and later became president, and another individual who was instrumental in building up the infrastructure in New York City in the early 1930s. His accomplishment is comparable to an entire civilization, and that is not an overstatement. The thing that was shocking is when Ryan Holiday revealed that the secret to this person's extreme productivity comes from the fact that he keeps a clean desk. Yes, I'll say it again. The secret to his success is that he kept a clean desk. He had a huge desk. He was simultaneously on the board of over 10 different groups and organizations. And whenever he got a piece of mail, he would take care of it on his desk and never leave junk lying around. It's such a simple principle, but very few of us follow, myself included. I don't have a clean desk where I am now, and I often find myself distracted and annoyed at the mess that is around me. When we move into our new house, I will do my best to keep a clean working space in order to think more clearly and to be more productive. And lastly, the second point I got from the book is you have to go slow if you want to go fast. What that means is many people are impatient in getting to a goal, and in the process of rushing, they make mistakes, and that actually makes their goal longer to reach. An example is famous coach John Wooden's basketball team. On the first day he meets his players, he would go through a lesson on how to properly put on their socks and put on their shoes. For an already elite basketball team, this seems like a trivial and ridiculous exercise, but to John Wooden, there's nothing too small. And there's a very compelling reason why he has his players practice this simple routine. During the game, where players are on their feet most of the time and are putting out a lot of pressure, if the sock is not put on correctly, it can easily cause blisters, which can lead to infections and cause players to be benched from the game. By taking the time to put on the socks and the shoes correctly, the player has a much better chance to stay in the game the long term and to improve, since they're not having to get sidelined due to injuries. I can certainly think of many cases where I'm trying to save time, but it ends up costing me more in the long run. Just like yesterday when I was wiring the money to my closing attorney, I assumed that I already knew what these options were. Had I double checked with my bank or the closing attorney about which option I should use, it would have saved me days of trouble. And that is the lesson I wanted to share. And if you guys liked anything I mentioned in this video, please hit the like button and also click subscribe to follow me on my journey. Thank you for your support, and until next time, peace!